Hey, it's me, Big P. I wanted to do an update video on the build now. I think we're around somewhere day 4, 5, whatever, it doesn't really matter. The important thing is we respec into Death's Oath and Caustic Arrow, and as you can see from the gear as well, we're pretty much full magic find now. Kind of a weird little situation where I spent a bit of money on some upgrades to both optimize the build and completely brick it in terms of doing anything like late game bossing. However, before we go over the full gear respec and general thoughts, I'm going to try and run the final tier 16 that I need for completion here. We almost completed the Atlas, just leaving some some unique maps left. And we got 4 Wattstones. First 2 we did ourselves on Bane, and the next 2 we just bought carries because we just need to improve it. I almost don't want to run it. I'm not going to run it with the influence because this build really is kind of squishy, and Caustic Arrow is like weird, kind of bugged. We're not at a level 3 in power yet, but the damage is generally pretty good, and we are able to magic find effectively. Which is a very specific term I just used there, you know. We are running Cast on Death Portal now. As you can see, our life total is sub 3k. This is a very focused build. We're gonna actually focus on, oh, there you go. You get to see the effective hit pool. Some people were running no hit Sanctum runs last league. If you were able to do any of that, then this might be the build for you, because you kind of gotta be kiting all the time. We're gonna rush to the boss here just because, I'm confident in its general ability to clear. It is possible you brick a map if you're alching and volleying them. Chaos skills can run stuff, but it is a little bit trickier. Actually, I do remember bricking this map before, because this guy can, yeah, that hurts a lot if it actually makes contact with us. So hopefully we'll have enough damage here. Like I said, like Bane wasn't winning any DPS competitions, but with Val Caustic Arrow, at least if you take the death, you can kind of let it run its course, and you might actually be able to, get the boss down. This is a really bad boss. Like I said before, I do remember breaking the map. Yeah, because that has really good range and comes out extremely quick. That little spectral slice, whatever's going on there. And we are using Arrow Nova, so it's like a little unintuitive. So yeah, we're just basically kiting in whatever way we can. Let's drop the Val Caustic Arrow there and hope that it stands on it. So you can see it's standing in the area now, taking the dot damage, because Val Caustic Arrow does last a decent bit. Oh no, not anymore. Okay, let's see. Again, this is this is more of an example of just how the damage that can be on the gem of Val Caustic Arrow. Just wait till you see my bow, because technically as a crafted bow it's absolutely terrible, but the Crucible skill tree I have on it is actually pretty great. So we'll go over that. We'll just try and clear. This is actually a pretty much terrible map style for this build. This layout just kind of has a lot of weird corners where, like a bunch of these characters can kind of rev up an attack or something like that. We are going to do the Crucible as well. I actually haven't tried it since the patch today that they've buffed it, or nerfed it rather. So let's give it for 2. I usually go for 2 audio cues, and I'm able to clear that even with this. So let's see, and let's pop this. Okay, that wasn't that bad, and seemed to be decent enough in terms of XP per. You just gotta get used to kind of holding some base types, which is kind of annoying now that we're magic find and we run a lot of quantity in our maps. I'm not doing any like focused group play, if not just because Caustic Arrow doesn't really benefit from a lot of the usual suspects. That being said, if I group with anybody, I'm glad if they're running Grace or Determination, because we're not running any defensive auras. Here's the Legion that, last league I was playing things like Legion and Breach with a Inspired Learning, pretty much just for the defensive bonuses that it could bring, which isn't really actually that much. But a lot of these, like, we're probably just going to get one shot here by something. It's not great, but at least Caustic Arrow, especially as you see, we have a Mirage Archer, which I probably wouldn't actually be using. But Caustic Arrow is currently bugged with the Pierce. Kind of hard to see, but sometimes the middle, we're using the Arrow Nova support. The middle payload like doesn't actually leave a Caustic Arrow pool where it lands. It does at that time. Maybe they did fix it, but I had heard it's bugged. And we'll go over where I'm getting the Pierce. Basically, I'm just using a corrupted gem here, or not a corrupted gem, a corrupted quiver. Just trying to get additional arrow, but Pierce is okay for now, I guess. It's supposed to help with clear, and we're actually not using Asenath's Gentle Touch because I wanted to push quantity as much as we could, so we're using Sedima's instead. And yeah, I mean, it's not, you're using your portals, let's put it that way. This is what I expected it to be, and it's doing it, but it is, you know, very comfy to just farm around with. And I can basically ALCH go at any tier, but most importantly, I can do it at tier 14 plus. With, you know, juicing the altars. Didn't do it this time because, you know, I knew that boss was gonna give me a death or two. It's not meant for bossing. When you do get the Caustic Arrow, I still don't have a level 21 gem. You can pump it up to like level 24 and beyond, then the damage gets really good. All right, enough of this map. I don't want the video to take forever because you know, the idea now is that we have watchstones and a build that can kind of do everything up to tier 16 content. Now we want to set up more dedicated farming strategies. I have been starting to block stuff and just still running Stream of Consciousness while we get enough scarabs to run growing hordes. Probably still going to force breach. I have been doing Legion instead in the meantime, but we're most likely going to respec out of that because I think like even the cheapest breach stone is worth more than the highest emblem, if that makes sense. Let me double check that real quick. We have built up a decent number of emblems. So this one's America is actually 15 and Templar is 16, whereas the Tull Breachstone is 19. Esh is 20, 38, and then much higher up. Yeah, you know. So as far as like what to farm and stuff like that, we'll have to see. I personally, even if breach stones and the breach loot themselves don't drop a lot, I just do like breach on open layouts. And want to try it with like the new density changes for just pure quantity. Like I dropped a number of my divines last league from the breach mechanic itself, so I imagine that'll still be the case this time. And yeah, let me just go over. Let's go over. Well, let's go over the skills first, and then we can talk more about how the gear is specialized for Magic Find. So it's Death's Oath now. AoE, Controlled Destruction, Void Manip, Swift Affliction, Laceration, and Life Tap, which you trigger with a level 1 Life Tap on your Flame Dash. Basically, Death's Oath is kind of very specific and solved in what you can support it with. You could go for Awakened Support Gems. I might do that if I do end up making decent bank with this build. I certainly hope so. So you see we have 31k DPS, and then you do a Life Tap, and now it's 37k. We have Life Tap now. So it is a pretty significant chunk. So do try and remember to flame that. I mean, you will be, you know, when you're kiting and running away from all these scary mobs and stuff like that. And then we'll go over Caustic Arrow, Vol Caustic Arrow, of course. Specifically, I have a 2020 gem that I got myself here. I don't think these are too expensive. Well, they're about a divine actually, but what I would try and do is you're going to be running and farming a bunch of maps anyway. Get yourself a bunch of just Caustic Arrows and try and vol them yourself. So that's really what you should be doing if you're going to build this from the ground up, or just any sort of, you know, farming strategy where you're trying to get bang for your buck. Every level counts with Caustic Arrow, and that's why we invested in Empower as soon as we could. Before this, the tier 14 plus bosses really were like not budging on the HP pool. You know, it's just kind of a different play style now that we have the Caustic Arrow. I've moved into stuff like Mirage Archer and Arrow Nova, which aren't even like technically damage links. You know, so what I was running it before last league was more just like this, just like straight up and trying to like tag areas of like breaches or wherever I was trying to farm. But yeah, going with the Arrow Nova, even if it's like bugged with Pierce right now, it's just much better coverage that doesn't really affect your chaos dot damage. Like, where's the dot damage? Yeah, it's like 114k, and then you put it in, it drops about like 10k. Mirage Archer is just to help with the coverage now while it's still bugged. We honestly probably should change it back. I was also running it for heist. Normally you'd run vicious projectiles. It's way better for the damage. Now the damage has gone up to 150k, which is probably what I should have been running, but I don't know. And sometimes it can be a little inconsistent in coverage, the Caustic arrow. But yeah, concentrate effect, you could swap for efficacy or some other dot gem, but I think conc effect, especially now that you have Arrow Nova, just really spreading it out doesn't really matter so much. And this is really more the single target stuff. Honestly, if you're in like even up to like the higher yellow maps, you can just run around and kill stuff, because we are running temp chains, blasphemy, despair, and malevolence. So you have double curse set up. Everything around you is a little slowed and has lower chaos res. And yeah, that's some of the auras. Some of the other auras here. We are still using arrogance with clarity, which isn't a great idea, I will say. With it, even if it's only about 100 life reserve, it's still a precious bit. But I'm still feeling maybe I should really check in POB if this is worth it, because I feel like my elemental max hit versus my physical max hit, probably not worth it. Doing the trade-off, I should probably go for a physical max hit. I'm not using determination or even defiance banner or anything like that. We're using a 2020 vitality, just because if you can kind of run around and regen some stuff, that kind of helps. And Withering Step is actually kind of nice in those lower tier maps, just to tag stuff with Wither. You're still, you know, just doing a bunch of damage now with the Death's Aura up. It's pretty cool to use. Kind of gives you a visual indicator of your Death's Oath aura as well. I'm not sure if they're one-to-one, but kind of helps you figure that out. And then of course, Cast on Death portal. We are at 3k life now. If we go into some of the gear, you'll see, I mean, we're not pushing the gear. The gear has an investment here would be, let's go over the gear itself actually now, starting with the bow, because people have been having trouble with Crucible or saying it's not worth it. I found it, I'm not going to call it a mirror tier bow, but I'm going to take every single point here and love it. We have a Mariketh bow base, which normally has like 212 dex requirement, I think, which is kind of tricky to get. So first is dot, damage over time and skill effect duration. We take that. Increased dexterity. Accuracy rating doesn't matter, but increased dexterity is nice to help hit all those other dex requirements. And we also get reduced attribute requirements. And then the final one is faster proj as my 7th link. So I do actually have a 7th link Caustic arrow here. Not really much in terms of damage, but I will say, I mean, in terms of, you know, it's a game of inches and seconds, Path of Exile. So having that projectile come out and cover stuff a bit quicker. Also, Vol Caustic arrows painfully slow without it. So having the increased proj speed is pretty nice. Could have been like Chance to Flee or something terrible like that, so we'll definitely take that. But then if you actually take a look at the bow itself, it is pretty much atrocious. I threw the level 2 essence. Do I have even one of the essences here? Yeah, I threw a Shrieking Essence of Dread, which is going for about 3 chaos now at the bow, to get what I would consider the base minimum for a Caustic arrow bow, and all you need for that is just +2 to level of socket of bow gems, kind of like elemental hit in that way, where the skill itself just scales with gem level pretty much, and anything else you can get is just candy. Everything else on this bow is superfluous, except the crafted damage over time. So because the base of this is so, you know, decent in terms of Crucible skill tree, I am going to metacraft this bow into something, but I need to get Putrid Cloister to get the proper metacrafts, and then actually farm the divines. I think it's either like 4 or maybe like 6 in total that I'll need, but I don't mind. I'm going to invest, you know, we're still in the first week of the league. Everything that I invest in this character will be made back, even if I'm just dicking around in white or yellow maps. But even with this current middling setup with nothing insanely fancy, I don't think anything I have here is too far out. Like, we don't have like a Helm enchant. Viridi's Veil you can kind of get pretty cheap, and it pairs nicely with the aesthetic in terms of getting as much quantity as you can. It's just a lot of Ellie res, which you actually need. Bit of ES and armor, which can help if you want to go Eldritch Battery, and just honestly, when you have next to 0 armor, a bit of armor does help. Not that this build is any, you know, example of layers of defense or tankiness. You saw the layer of defense here. It's Cast on Death Portal, and just the willpower to keep going in the maps and not level up past level 91. We probably will pay for some like 5-way legions to bump up a couple levels, because it will matter once we get into really good cluster jewel setups. I have a decent one right now. I'll show after when we go over the tree, because the tree had a bit of a respec as well. And yeah, I was corrupting quivers and stuff. This is just a Pierce one. Again, like I say, Pierce is bugged, but I don't know what else to get. I don't want to like look through trade. Trade's like down now anyway or whatever. But yeah, aesthetic. If you have a magic item equipped, you get 15 quant and 93 rarity. If you have a normal item, here's my normal item. Here's my magic item where I rolled a tier 1 suffix and prefix of rarity. Not changing that. That's magic find, right? That's like some Diablo 2 shit right there. It's gorgeous. And then okay, Venter's Gamble. We'll roll more and more. I have like a lot of extra fire res like on the bow on here. Not my cold and definitely not my lightning resistance, unfortunately, you know, because we do have great fire res on Goldworm, luckily, which can help. But you know, we're way over capped for that. Whereas these others, luckily my Topaz Flask of the Kaleidoscope, while that's running, we do have max res, so take what we can get where we can get it. Hopefully we can get another Venters that has you know, similar quant but also gives us more cold and lightning resistance. But I mean, either way, it's not super important, you know. The build can't function in a way. Yeah, Sedemas instead of Aseniths. We really should start when it comes to like kind of pushing the build further. I'm going to start corrupting these. Not entirely sure what corruption I'm really looking for, even just like attack speed or maybe another curse on hit, just so that my explosions with the Profane Bloom can apply a curse, because that will count as a hit, I believe. I'm actually not entirely sure how that works. And then Bisco's Leash right here. It's Mini Headhunter. It's 5% Quant and Rampage. That's what we're using. What else? That's pretty much it for the base gear. Here's the flasks. Corrupting Blood. You can go for... Yeah, I think I might actually go for the Corrupting Blood here for Soul of ALCH instead. But I also kind of want the reduced Ignite duration. You can kind of balance stuff with the... I think Brine King is just by far the best one, especially now that you can just get 100% chance to avoid freeze. Chaos damage resistance against damage over time, we actually have 68%. I actually am forgetting exactly where that's coming from. Is that from one of these? Yeah, exposure therapy kind of helps us in terms of, as well as just the like 300 something regen we're getting from vitality. Yeah, we go from 41 to yeah, like 323. Again, not a lot. We don't have a lot of life. But so regen is kind of important in the match. I mean, we are getting ES and life on kill, or maybe just life on kill. Yeah, no, we don't have the ES on kill nodes here yet. Tree's been tightened up a bit. We went into an okay cluster jewel. I just kind of out spammed it, scour out until I got some of the good ones that you need for chaos damage. The medium cluster jewels are also kind of mediocre. I definitely should roll this a bit better, but like for now, you know, I just want to get something together, and the jewels are crap. We did go for the Transcendent Mine here, which gives dot multi per unallocated radius. And if you like hover on the side here, you can see it does give 21 dot multi. Well, minus 32 intelligence and mana recovery rate, we'll take that because we're going to push damage wherever we can. Coming over for Acrimony here, even though I don't know if it's worth it. It is a bit of a stretch here. But again, we want to push damage and be as consistent as possible. If we can get better cluster jewel set up here, probably will be more damage than this section, these here. We might actually be, can we get away with refunding that now? So we could get 2 out of here and then get maybe another small cluster jewel or 2 to get some like spicy stuff. We're reaching like kind of like the ceiling, you know, we're getting like diminishing returns on the investments we can make here. So you need to get like really better cluster jewels. I could also look into the number of whatchamacallit options, mostly on Karui jewels. Either Corrupted Soul for a slight bit of tankiness, probably not that good. Or Divine Flesh, not Divine Flesh. Divine Shield, what's this one called? Yeah, I think Divine Flesh is the one that gives you LE to Chaos, but we're not really Chaos capped. Maybe if we took this wheel here, that'd be enough, but I don't know, we'll see. We could get a bunch more chaos res on another chaos cluster jewel, so maybe that's how we'd fix it up here. Oh, and we are still in this here, just because 20 strength and dex is nice to have. No, yeah, see, we still need that. But we were able to drop out of most of these like 30 nodes here, which you normally will need to take when you're leveling before you have the attributes needed for the Death's Oath itself. And you know, like a Maraketh bow, if you're using that, you could also use just a Thicket bow, has better attack speed. I will say attack speed is like a bit of a annoyance at some points when you're like getting stuck and just really need to get your damage out. But yeah, let's go into, I guess, just general Atlas thoughts and strategies. I've been running Legion stuff just because I kind of wanted to get my own emblems to set up a 5-slot map device and maybe get some money there. The money's been really good, especially since we went into war supplies. That just makes each horde release. Oh no, it's the here's the one. Pillage Legion chests in your maps contain an additional reward. I mean, I guess you need to get both of these. And these are right next to the breach nodes that we're going to swap into when we start trying to build a map pool. I'm not entirely sure what I want to do. I'm bouncing between shadow shaping strats because I don't have that many favored map pools to work with here. I don't think singular focus is as good unless you can get pretty much all of them. And by all of them, I mean all the favored map slots. Otherwise, you might have to go with like a cheeky shadow shaping strat here, where like I can generate a bunch of like tier 15 cemeteries and towers to try and farm div cards there, something like that. But I really kind of just want to do beach. I don't know. We'll bounce between a couple. I'm gonna do a stream actually right after this, where we try and set up some map pools, just with like some like general, just like ALCH and Go strategies at tier 14. Hit some altars and stuff. We haven't gone into altars. I might go into Eldritch Gauge. And try and farm blue altars just to kind of zig when people zag, in terms of, you know, farming the Exarch altars, which are more consistent currency definitely, but like, you know, if you get the divine, that's pretty good. But either way, I mean, yeah, we're gonna go into breach just because I want to see for myself how it feels, especially without the inspired learning. It's worth noting in my old setup I had like really shitty suboptimal tree here because I had to get 4 notables here. We might be able to actually get away with it, especially because we're using Mind Drinker now here to get the reservation efficiency of skills. Oh, I did anoint sovereignty on my tree here, which was like 50 chaos to get the 3 silver oils you need. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I think generally speaking, until I get like a endgame bow, maybe, and like I've farmed like enough to, I don't know. I mean, the build is like pretty much done as far as transformation and transition into an endgame farmer now. You know, it's really on the side of mapping versus bossing. The next build, I pretty much need a bosser right now. I can't even run like a Shaper Guardian. Maybe I can. Might try and do that now, but I'm like a little afraid to brick it. I mean, not that I can't just buy another. I probably should, just so I can get more consistent map forming strats now. But either way, yeah, let me know what you're up to now in the league. We're just going to use this, chill out for the rest of this week, try a bunch of different strats to generate some currency to make a bosser, and then probably a couple other big projects. Crucible does have a lot of potential for like weird funky builds, so I'll definitely try and kick 1 or 2 of those out this league. But here's my tryhard mapper currency generator for the league. Please feel free to ask any questions or come by the stream. We will be just kind of blasting as many maps as we can with this setup and trying to tweak it. And so yeah, I'm kind of new to Caustic Arrow overall. I used to do this with Lightning Arrow or Tornado Shot, the usual types suspects, but Caustic Arrow is just way easier to hit that tier 14 ceiling that you definitely want to be at now with the altars, because you need to be at least tier 14 maps to farm these. Like that's the new ceiling you need to get to, or rather the floor, let's say. Because while you can run around in white and yellow maps and do it, you might as well be doing this. Just so much density and just so much value in the altars that can pop up, even if you don't invest into it on the skill tree. I haven't done it, and it's still just like significant profit on the tree. It makes it harder, but like that's what Cast on Death Portal is for. You know, you got 6 portals, so you got to use them. And yeah, that's it. I'm gonna go live in a bit, and I'll see you in the next video.